What it do, golf fans? Welcome back to the Turn Dollars Golf Podcast. This is Liam. Alongside me is Jack. Jack, welcome back to the podcast. You were off for a week.
Daddy's back.
Okay, all right. And on that note, right back into the swing of things, just like he was never gone. Uh, BMW Championship. Obviously, you weren't here on the podcast, but I'm sure you watched it because you always watch golf because you're a degenerate. What'd you think of the week?
It was cool. I actually have a buddy that was one of the greenskeepers for this course, so I had a little bit of insider information. Not like anything like hey, who's going to win or not, but like it was cool to see. Course was beautiful. I would have shot like 11 under there. I don't know. Everybody said it was like one of the best events they've seen. I didn't get that vibe, and that's I know a complaint for me, or it sounds really negative, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's because it was like a mountainous type of an event. Like it was in the mountains and like 99.9% of all the courses I feel like we play on the PGA Tour are like coastal or like flatland type of courses. We don't get a lot of like elevation-ish type of course. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but like it just looked very aesthetically different than most of the courses that are normally played on PGA Tour week in and week out.
Well, you got to think they play in Colorado, they play in Mexico, they play in Idaho, but that's not sanctioned PGA Tour. That's that charity thing.
Well, and that's the thing is like a lot like Mexico is never like a big event with all the top players. You know, Idaho is obviously not really PGA Tour sanctioned. So like this was a PGA Tour sanctioned top 50 players in the PGA Tour event with all the big names, which I think is another reason why it was such a popular setup. So we've gone like two and a half minutes now, and we haven't talked about the fact that Keegan Bradley pulled out the win.
Eric Keegan, baby.
Eric Keegan, President's Cup captain, right? No, Ryder Cup captain.
President's Cup. It's okay. The real golfer will take over.
Who's the Ryder Cup? Why am I mixing that up?
Dude, the Ryder Cup just happened.
Oh, yeah, shit. Oh, my God. Wow, what a day. All right, we're figuring it out. We're getting there.
What? Okay, I don't even know what's going on.
We'll be good.
We have to have a talk outside of this. The real golfers here. Keegan Bradley won. Second time in 3 years that he's won, which is awesome, and it wasn't in Boston. So good for him. He said himself that he wants to be a play-in. He's not just going to willy-nilly pick himself because he wants to be in, which I thought was badass. Shout out to him. He had 4 really solid rounds. Round 4, obviously, he had a little bit of a hiccup. Burnsy almost took him for his money on that one, which would have been wild considering I think the average was like 2 over on the day, 1 over on the day. Yep. And Burnsy was like 60, what did he shoot, 65?
He was 7 under, I think. So, yeah, 64, 65. Yeah. So, crazy fun time. You commented it. Sam Burns was another guy who finished up there. But overall, I think Adam Scott was also T2 at the end of the day. But overall, pretty interesting event. Then anybody stand out in terms of people that you played worse than you anticipated?
I didn't play anybody inside of myself.
Well, I'm just saying playing worse.
Scotty, he's human. He is human.
Yep. T33, I want to say he was last week. Which in the grand scheme of things for Scotty might as well have been a missed cut based on how he's been playing the rest of the year. So that's crazy. We'll see how that goes. Max Homa was a bad one. He's been playing bad the last like 3, 4, 6, 8 weeks.
Max Homa needs another kid.
Well, yeah, you're probably not fully wrong there, but that was a tough one. Some of the low price guys last week that I talked about that I'm going to say I was all over because it was just me. I really liked Taylor Pendrith. He finished T13. I really liked Will Zalatoris because this was the $6,000 range, and he was T13. And then I liked Adam Scott, and he was a little higher priced, but he's still going to count because I think he was like under 8K. And he finished tied for a runner-up. And so all 3 of those are really nice wins. My big miss was Eric Cole. I thought he would do well. He finished T46. Beyond that, everybody else did about what you anticipated. I'm going to go through DraftKings really quick. Xander Schauffele, T5, Colin Morikawa, T28, Aaron Rai, T43, Taylor Pendrith, T13, Eric Cole, T46, Max Grazerman, T28. I think Grazerman shot a 6 under on Saturday. which was really nice to see. FanDuel, I won some good money on this one. I had Xander Schauffele T5, Tommy Fleetwood T5, Wyndham Clark T13, Aaron Rye T43, Taylor Pendrith T13, Eric Cole T46. So that one was a pretty nice winner for me. A little less winning on DraftKings than on FanDuel. For my bets, I didn't do that great. I went 1 for 4. I had Benny on over Keegan Bradley. That, woulda, coulda, shoulda. Turns out, I think Benny on finished like T12, by the way, too, so he didn't even play that bad. I had Tommy Fleetwood over Ludwig Aubert. That was a loss, even though both of them finished top 5, which sucks. I had Aaron Rye over Cam Young. That was a win. And then I had Aaron Rye top 20 at -115. That was a loss. So 1.4 or 1 for 4, lost 2.09 units on the week. I'm currently positive 7.14 units on the year. Nothing crazy, nothing fancy. Jack, I kind of gifted you 2 winners last week, and I don't think either of them did particularly well.
I'm going to say, I'm glad you prefaced that, because I was just about to say winners was not my doing. I didn't even get to a point where I could look at the roster for events before.
To be fair, I think I gave you Tony Finau, and he finished like T13.
I was gonna pick Keegan Bradley if I had the option, but
oh yeah. I get it. Yeah. So I gave him Tony, who was like T13, and then I think I gave you Aaron Rye, who was like T43 or whatever.
Thanks.
You weren't here. You didn't text me names, so I gave you whoever the heck I could think of. I was like, yeah, sure, these 2 sound good. For my winners last week, I took Hovland, who finished T26, and then I took Sam Burns, who was a runner-up. I'm again not a winner with Sam Burns, but damn well felt like it based on how this guy normally plays. So I'll take a runner-up on him. My wild card pick was Aaron Rye over Tommy Fleetwood and Matt Fitzpatrick. I went 1 for 2, but unfortunately, plus 200, that was a loss. So cool. That was BMW. Again, cool event. Good to see it out in Denver, and we probably won't see another PGA Tour event in Denver for another 6 to 8 years. So that'd be my guess. Sorry.
Hot take.
I to be fair, last one was 2015, so it was 9 years.
I hope there's one on the calendar next year.
I could actually see there somehow being it. That would make a ton of sense. Regardless, we're going to the Tour Championship. We're going to East Lake. There's a par 71 totaling 7,490 yards. Last year's winner of the Tour Championship was Victor Hovland. This is the final week of the 2024 season. Now, this is not the MLB or the NBA or the NFL where you have like a 72 month off season, it feels like. They're taking a week off for Labor Day, and then you are right back into events starting September 12th to the 15th. So in all likelihood, you will not see Jack or I record for next Monday, because again, I will be traveling for Labor Day. I assume Jack will be as well. But you will see us on 2 weeks. Just some updates on East Lake. East Lake has undergone a major renovation in the past 12 months. They've ripped up the fairways and the greens on nearly all 18 holes. They added over 100 yards to the course, and they've actually made the course a par 71 this year instead of a par 70 that it was previously.
They needed to do that.
Yeah, it was a quality of life upgrade that was definitely needed. This course has always been an accurate hitter's paradise. Hitting out of the short grass is key. So approach and driving off the tee is going to be important. Strokes gained putting has basically zero correlation here. Some of the best putters play well here. Some of the worst putters play well here. There's not really any statistics you can follow to go through that. Please note that this is the 1 week all year where there are 30 golfers. This event only has 30 golfers in it, by the way, if you don't know. But the 30 golfers don't all start at even par or the same score. I'm going to try and pull up a list here, ideally, that you guys will see over our faces right now, kind of showing how the breakdown will go as far as starting positions. Scotty is going to start at 10 under, Xander's at 8 under, Hideki's at 7 under. It's going to go all the way down to even par. I think like Justin Thomas and Matthew Pavon and a few of those guys all start at even par. So theoretically, you'll see a big list right now. Use that. That'll be the best way to do it, as opposed to me rattling off all 30 names. A couple things you want to look for every year in this tournament. There's a grouping of low price players who end up in the top 5. You want a guy ideally that's like under 8K that's going to bump up into the top 5 or top 10. Your goal is to have one of those guys in your lineups, because generally those are the guys that cash. Looking over a realistic chance on who is going to win based on metrics as well as those starting scores to get to 10 under, you probably have realistically about 6 winners that stand a chance here. Scotty, Xander, Hideki, Ludwig. I don't know if you want to say Keegan. I mean, statistically he does, but I don't think he does. But I would include maybe Colin and Rory. Even Rory's going to be a tough one. But those are the 6 I would do. If you're not including Keegan, it's 6. If you do include Keegan, I guess you could say 7. But there's about 7 guys that realistically have a chance to win. So keep that in mind. All right, with that, Jack, do we want to bump right into DraftKings pricing?
Yes, and remember with DraftKings pricing, and should be FanDuel as well, it will stagger the points as well. So Scotty Scheffler will have first place points right away. Xander will have second place points. So just a heads up that you probably want to get one of those guys ahead. And I also have COVID, so that's why I sound like absolute ravage. Scotty at 12.2, Xander at 11,000, Hideki at 10,100 are the top 3.
Yeah, my goal was to try and save Jack voice as much as possible because again, he's been going through it for the last couple of days.
You might think I'm having alcohol. I'm having an elderflower ashwagandha tea right now. I'm dying.
All right, let me get through these 3 guys. So Scotty Scheffler is priced at 12,200. This is actually a really cheap price for him. Last week in a bigger field with 50 guys, he was priced $100 more, and he didn't start with a 2-stroke advantage. I would keep that in mind. I also looked because I was curious. Back when this event started, or when they started doing the DraftKings rankings for this in like 2015, 2016, I want to say one of these years, Justin Thomas was number 1. His price point to start off on the lead was $15,200 on DraftKings, which is crazy. So the fact that he is $3,000 less than what JT was way back when he was first is a little wild. He did lose strokes gained tee to green for the first time in over 2 seasons last week, which is absolutely crazy. And he almost lost 5.5 strokes on approach. So keep that in mind. He also doesn't have the best history at East Lake, losing at least 3 strokes putting in all 4 of his starts. For whatever reason, this is just not the event that he necessarily goes out and overperforms at. Maybe is the best way to describe it. Is that an accurate statement, Jack, as far as that goes?
Yeah, I mean, you have to think about it. Even taking a look at last year, Victor Hovland finished at 22 under. Scotty was the one that started at 10 under and finished at 11. Like, I just don't think that he has. Again, DFS is interesting because he's still starting number 1 with a 2-shot lead.
Yep.
And even if he goes out and shoots even par, that still would have been 8th place. So he's getting these placement points, but to me, it's not worth it still.
No, and I agree. And in all honesty, I think Xander, $1,200 cheaper than him, is probably the best option. He has a lot of the identical metrics that you expect from Scotty, but with the added bonus of being very good traditionally at East Lake. I think he will probably be the most popular golfer in terms of DFS, but I think it'll be extremely worthwhile. Don't overthink it. I think he's probably a great option for the first one on your list. Now, I say traditionally at East Lake because, again, with them redoing the entire course, this is kind of like having a brand new golf course for a lot of these golfers. So a lot of the guys that have never played here before will be in a lot of the same boats as the guys that have. Obviously, there's a few metrics that'll be different, but it's just going to be a slightly less volatile adjustment for these new guys that are in. But I think Xander gives all the metrics you're looking for on Scotty with just more upside based on East Lake history. Hideki, he's an interesting choice. I mean, he withdrew last week at the BMW, but prior to that, he won at he won at St. Jude, and then he was 3rd at the Olympics, right? I'm quoting that right. I wanted to make sure I didn't get that wrong. So he's been playing absolutely spectacular. He's very well known for his irons. He's got great around the green play. But the biggest question is always with Hideki is his health. I think if he plays, he's worth having in your lineup. But it's always a health question with him. It's always terrifying.
I don't know if it's as big of a concern for me this week because the way that I look at it is coming into this year or into last week, he may have not even felt pain. It might have been tight. And he goes, no matter what happens, I'm locked up at 3rd place.
Yeah.
I'm 3 shots back. I'm not pushing myself to a point where it's going to cause something. So for me, I think it's a viable option, and I'm not necessarily worried about it.
I'll say this: if you want to get crazy and try and get like Xander and Hideki in your lineups, I'm on board. I'm maybe a little more scared to go start with Hideki. Is that fair?
I agree with that.
Okay. All right. So with that, it sounds like what? Probably Xander at 1, Hideki at 2, Scotty at 3.
Yeah, I would say.
Damn, that's crazy. Scotty's the last on anything in golf this year, but unfortunately, it's just the way the game's broken down here at East Lake. All right, into the 9K range we go. Ludwig Gobert 9,900. Down to Colin Morikawa 9,100. There's only 4 golfers here, so Ludwig, Rory, Patrick, and Colin. So, do you want me to dig right into my overview?
I'll just say one thing. We have to remind ourselves that the Tour Championship East Lake GOAT is in this category, even though it's very hard to say. Patrick Cantlay is in this category, and he's trending in the right direction.
Yeah, it's Patrick Cantlay is a very viable option, definitely this week as far as that goes. One thing to note: Rory McIlroy actually starts at -3, and he's in this range, which just kind of tells you that he obviously the odds makers are very high in him. His game's kind of been limping into the finish line here a little bit though this season. He's played significantly more rounds of golf through August in this season than he has at any point of his career per physical year. He has played more golf in the last I'm gonna just say 9 months because it's almost September 1st. But he's played more golf in these 9 months than he has in any 12-month stretch in history.
That's what we like. The schedule changes.
Yeah, which is a little concerning. He's also lost strokes putting in 4 of his last 5 starts, which again doesn't mean everything here, but it's just a little extra motivation for me not to be high up on a guy. So I don't know if I love Rory this week. There is Ludwig Gobert. I don't like seeing that he lost a stroke and a half on approach last week in Denver. He also lost strokes putting in 3 of his last 4 starts, but that was kind of a fluky tournament for him. I feel very comfortable now that he's back on sea level that he has a good chance of doing well again this week. I originally thought he was just going to coast it into next season, but he decided to start to be competitive again. So we'll see what happens with him.
Can we still bet on Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think he's got it. If anybody's got any questions about it, that's for sure. Yeah. I don't have much on Morikawa. I mean, his irons are good. He should do decent here, but he seems very just steady recently. Not a lot of top 10 finishes. He's just kind of coasted his way into the finish, which just doesn't give me a lot of excitement as far as picking him, because I kind of want somebody that has an opportunity to give me peak upside, and I just haven't seen that over Colin for the last 4 starts.
Yeah, I don't really have too much on Colin Morikawa. He finished 5 over on the weekend here last year after being 15 under to start. That tells you, 15 under, and then he finished 2 over, 3 over. I don't know what happened. I can't speak to that, but he is just a pure ball striker, and I think if he sets himself up off the tee, which has been a huge struggle for him, he'll put himself up there. I just don't know if he has what it takes right now, especially with the staggered, to get a win. I don't hate it.
It's just less exciting, in my opinion. I think there's not as much winning upside with Colin as there is with maybe a Ludwig or a Rory or a Cantlay.
I do like Cantlay, but I think Ludwig is going to be the highest owned, though.
I agree. All right, with that, let's jump down into the 8K range. Just also only has 4 golfers. Keegan Bradley, who again I think is the fourth guy as far as he starts at 600. And then you have Sam Burns 8,500, Victor Hovland 8,300, Wyndham Clark 8,100.
I like Burnsy actually a lot. He looked amazing last week, and this is just a cue. Just everybody can go screen record this right now. He's coming downhill, but I like him, and I think he has a good chance of coming out. Finished 9th at East Lake last year. After starting at even. So he was one of those guys that was the Stoneman price. Actually, I think he was maybe just above Adam Schenk or something like that, but he came out 2 4 under rounds, a 3 under round as well. So I think if he's coming into this full cylinder, and he's only 4 shots back, like over the course of a 4-day tournament, that's a shot a day. You can make that up, and that's just over Scotty. Then it's, staggered down that way. So I think if you're going to get to anybody, Burnsy's the best option because Wyndham Clark is just wild. Hovland is just Sam Burns now. And Keegan Bradley, we all know what happens after you win if you're outside of the top 20 in the world rankings.
Yeah, Keegan's scary. I think if you want somebody that's low priced, that's starting at a high ranking, then obviously Keegan's your choice. But you're playing with fire there. That's all I'm saying. I doubt he'll stay at fourth at the end of the week. I think there's a higher likelihood he drops back into the pack as opposed to him pulling closer to Scotty. You talked about Sam Burns. I'll mention it. Last week, big time birdie maker. He just made a lot of bogeys as well, unfortunately, or at least too many bogeys. He gained 6.5 strokes with the putter last week and also gained 2.5 strokes on approach, which is very not Sam Burns-esque. Usually Sam Burns decides to fall asleep on one of those two stats.
Mm-hmm.
This is quite a good stat for Burns to finish, top 5 probably this week. Maybe top 10, let's play a little safer. But I could very well see Sam Burns just play solid this week and easily finish top 10. Wyndham Clark, outside of 2 bad rounds at the Open, has been extremely consistent, all things considered. He has 5 finishes between 7th and 14th and has gained with the putter in all 5 of those tournaments. He did lose on approach a little bit at the BMW, and almost all of that was due to the fact that on Thursday he hit 4 balls in the water across, I think, 6 holes. But beyond that, he basically was a slight positive on approach. I think if he does that again this week, he's another guy who could also end up finishing top 10. I will talk about Hovland. I'll just mention it. He's doing a few things very well recently. He gained at least 5 strokes on approach in each of his last 3 starts. He also gained a full stroke around the green in Denver, which is the first time he's done that in 17 starts, which is great to see. When it clicks for Vic, it tends to kind of go crazy, and he usually wins golf tournaments. He's been great here at East Lake in years past, gaining with approach on all 4 years, and he's been basically a net zero putter. I don't hate it if you want to go to him, but I actually like pretty much the other 3 guys in this range outside of Keegan. So I'm comfortable with whichever one you can get to.
Yeah.
So, all right. All good? 7K range we go?
Yeah. Tony Finau, Tommy Fleetwood, Sungjae Im, Russell Henley, Shane Lowry, Benny On, Billy Horschel, and Sahith Theegala.
And Adam Scott, 7,900.
Oh, did I miss him?
Yeah, he's up there at 7,900. You're good. You're good. So I'm going to talk about a couple guys. Tony Finau, his putter has been hemorrhaging him for a bit, but he's kind of figured out recently how to hit the golf ball again. Outside of his putter, he had been pretty much an otherwise great golfer in the metrics, and 7,700 is a pretty cheap option for him this week. He's one of the options. I kind of see him outperforming his price point. I don't think he's finishing top 10, but I think he's going to be one of those guys where he will be up there in the early teens, and he will be worth the money basically on the back end.
Yeah, I like it's kind of a little bit of a shocker, but I like Russell Henley a little bit this week.
Ooh.
You're talking about tee to green player. Russell Henley fits the mold really well, and he's had some really quiet above average finishes, and especially in the middle pack of the season. He was just absolutely on fire, and especially in big tournaments. 7th at the Open, 7th at the U.S. Open, 5th at the Open, 23rd at PGA, 4th at API, and then 2 top 30 finishes in the last 2 events. I think that's very quiet, and I think it's overshadowed, so I really like him. Tommy Fleetwood also has been on a stretch, 2 top 5s in his last 3 events, and did play well enough last year to finish in the top 6 after firing 8 under over the course of 4 rounds, which is really good, and he's getting a bump in comparison. I also think Sungjae Im will be very weird. He's one of those guys. A lot of people that play well at Augusta tend to play well at East Lake. Couldn't tell you why. There's no correlation whatsoever, but it's true.
Yeah, I'm high on Tommy Fleetwood as well. Here's some notes I wrote down on Sungjae. Looking at the past 24 rounds, Sungjae, based on strokes gained total, has been a top 7 player in this field, only behind Xander, Hideki, Scotty, Tony Finau, Adam Scott, and Sam Burns. First of all, the fact that Burns is on that list is crazy. In 2022, he was actually one of the guys who started low priced on the board and ended up finishing T2 here at East Lake. So he's done this in years past. I could totally see him doing something identical this week again. So I'm very high on Sungjae Im at 7,500 as well. I will comment, just last guy, Billy Horschel. He's gained in all statistical categories in each of the past 4 weeks. Outside of losing 2 strokes putting last week in the BMW, he's in good form, but his biggest issue is he does not hit fairways.
And his issue is that douchey shirt he won.
Jesus, Jack. So again, I like him. He's not going to be very highly owned, but I wish he hit more fairways. So
what is it about East Lake? Now I've been looking back at the last batch of like top threes. Everybody that plays well at East Lake plays well at Augusta. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Hovland won last year and was the low am at Augusta and it's contended. Year before that, Rory and Sungjae, Scotty, boom. Cantlay, who contended like 2 of the last 3 years. Rahm, who's won. Nah, who almost won a couple years ago. DJ the year before. Like, what is going on?
It's just tough golf courses that good ball strikers know how to approach, I guess. I wish there was a better metric to it, but that's really all I can think of. Down in the 6K range we go. Akshay Bhatia 6,900, Justin Thomas 6,800, Seb Straka 67, Robert McIntyre 66, Pendrith 65, Aaron Rai 64, Christian Bezuidenhout 63, Chris Kirk 62, Tom Hoagie 61, and Matthew Pavon at 6,000.
Well, I like Justin Thomas.
Ooh.
That guy, you can never count him out. I'm not saying he's going to come back and win. But you take a look at his last time at East Lake, which was 2 years ago,
yeah, it would have been
2 seasons ago. He finished at 17 under after being at 3 under, 5, 12, 14. Yeah, after being at 3 under, finished at top 5. So he was out of the ball right off the bat. Year before that, he finished 4th after being at 9 under and finished at 15. So he knows how to score here.
Yep.
I'm not saying he's going to come back and win because I know he's starting pretty deep, but if you're looking for one of the guys that Liam talked about earlier, there's always 1 or 2 that finish in that top 5, top 10 range. I think Justin Thomas is a good stretch here.
Yeah, I think JT is one of those options. I think another one of those options is Seb Straka. His history here at East Lake has kind of been crazy. He's also generally pretty good at the Masters, if my memory serves right. I think he's gotten a couple of
he contended this year.
Yeah, I was going to say he was doing pretty good at one point. His finishes, though, here don't even really do it justice with how good he's been. He started at even one year and -1 the other year, and he's had finishes of T14 and T7, which, again, when you take into account all the other starting positions, it's kind of crazy. He's also gained 4 strokes on approach both times, as well as a combined 6 strokes with the putter. Let's also keep in mind he's a top 5, maybe top 10, depending on how fancy you want to get, accurate driver of the golf ball on tour. So I think Seb Straka or JT is a spectacular choice as far as low price guys that are potentially going to bump up. I think JT is slightly more volatile, but it probably has slightly more upside as well as history in terms of doing well.
What do you think about Taylor Pendrith?
Well,
I like him.
Yeah, he's actually been playing quite well in his last 4 starts. The only metric he's lost stats on is off the tee barely, just this last week. This is his first start at East Lake, slightly concerning. Generally, guys that do their first tournament here at East Lake don't necessarily win. But again, with there being the course being redone, a lot of guys are going to be on similar playing fields. I also think Taylor Pendrith is going to be a very interesting option this week. He's currently 13th in the international side for the President's Cup team. So I think the cutoff is in like the next few weeks for the President's Cup team, if my memory serves right. Don't quote me on that, but I want to say it's coming up here in the next month. So this is as good of a time as any to show that you deserve to be in the top 12 of the International President's Cup side. So Pendrith will probably have a little extra motivation on his end as well. But he's also had 2 top 5 finishes in his last 3 starts.
4.
Sorry, 4 starts. Math
Yeah.
is hard sometimes.
13th at the BMW. So
That's
the difference. Last guy I'll mention, I think Bez does also fit the mold here, and I know it's one of those stats that you said kind of not to prioritize really high, but I think if he can get the putter to a higher amount than what he's been doing over the last couple weeks, he's been playing really well, but he just hasn't been rolling it into the same pedigree that he was at the beginning and middle stretch of the year. Excuse me. I think he's starting at even par, maybe 1 under. I can't remember offhand. But I think he can get up all the way up to 10 under, 11 under, which in most events finishes top 15. So I wouldn't be surprised if he fires 2 under a day and gets out there, maybe 3 on 1 or 2 days.
Yeah, I'm a little more scared about Bez. I like Pendrith more, $200 more. But if you want to be different, he's probably one of the better options in this range.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, with that, do you want to get into DraftKings?
Scarily, I guess we can.
Let's do it.
My DraftKings lineup, I did go Xander Schauffele at 11,000.
Yep.
Flat, I have the GOAT on East Lake, Patrick Cantlay, 9,400. Well, he's technically not the GOAT at East Lake. You can make the case for like 3 other people. And if you really want me to be a nerd, I can go through that.
Yeah,
Burns at 8,500. Tommy Flo at 7,600. Benny On at 7,200. And then Bez at 6,300.
Okay, there we go. For my DraftKings pricing, I'm slightly more top heavy. I'm doing Xander Schauffele at 11,000, Hideki Matsuyama 10,100, Wyndham Clark at 8,100, Tommy Fleetwood at 7,600, Seb Straka at 6,700, and Taylor Pendrith at 6,500. So I like those first 3 guys a lot. I think if Seb or Pendrith jump in the top 8, I'm ecstatic.
There you go. My FanDuel lineup, Xander Schauffele, 12,800. Patrick Cantlay, 10,600. Sam Burns, 10,300. Sungjae Im, 9,800. Benny On, 8,500. And then Taylor Pendrith, 8K.
There you go. Mine is pretty similar to my DraftKings. I have Xander, 12,800. Hideki at 11,800. Tony Finau at 10,100. Tommy Fleetwood at 10,000, Taylor Pendrith at 8,000, and Seb Straka at 7,300. I think Seb Straka at 7,300 on FanDuel is one of the biggest pricing mistakes they made in the entire setup, personally, because he's the 3rd cheapest golfer there, whereas I think he's like the 10th maybe cheapest golfer on DraftKings. So, all right, into bets we go. How many bets you got?
I have 3, and I'm really confident about all 3.
Okay.
If we go 0 for 3, we'll finish it still up over 73 units on the year, which my goal was to be at 100. I'm sorry, I let everybody down paying off only their mortgage and their beach house rental.
Next year you'll get the boat too.
I know. So what was that? Over 150 units in the last 2 years, though. Yeah. Number 1, Scotty to finish 2nd or worse.
Ooh, okay.
Scotty is human. We watched him tight back, which I know I can't really take into consideration. That could heal up in 3 minutes, as someone with a back injury knows. He just didn't look confident. That's the first time in multiple weeks we've seen him visibly angry, slamming clubs, cussing out a caddy. And I think it was just a weird event for him where you're trying to win a season-long race, and he starts out the race complaining about the format, not performing. Then going to a crazy elevation course and basically just had to finish 4 rounds to lock up number 1 over Xander. Yeah. All you do is play and finish. Didn't do well, was mad, was pissed, all this stuff. Now he comes to East Lake where he hasn't performed super, super well, and now is only 2 shots above who in the conversation for number 1 or PGA Tour Player of the Year. Scotty finished 2nd or worse is minus 120. That is such crazy odds for me that I had to take it. And I want to say I'm putting 100 units on it, but obviously I'm not. I'm just putting 1 because I want to finish up. But that's number 1. Number 2, Xander Schauffele over Scotty Scheffler is plus 180. Listen, guys, it's only 2 shots over 4 rounds. That's half a shot a round. You think about it like that. It's not like the craziest advantage in the world. Granted, in professional golf, it's massive. I cannot stress how massive that is. But in the grand scheme of things, that's half a shot a round. And if you think of Xander Schauffele, how well he's able to adapt and perform to the molds of golf courses compared to Scotty, who's a little bit more casuals, don't take this the wrong way. He's a more one-dimensional golfer. I know it's going to cause some uproars, but if you're a high-level golf person, you'll understand what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's plus 180. That's crazy odds for a head-to-head and only 2 shots. So I'm taking that. And then I have Sam Burns over Wyndham Clark at minus 105. Burnsy is just the most volatile human ever. And I think he's either going to win by 6 shots over Wyndham Clark or lose by 6 shots to Wyndham. But Wyndham Clark has also been so volatile. It's just a battle of volatility. And at minus
that one is basically like a pick 'em even money where you're like, I'm either winning money or losing money by 100 shots. It doesn't matter. I could go either way.
And I don't see Wyndham Clark coming out and dominating this track in the same regard.
No, and that's fair. For my bets, I'm doing 4 this week, and again, I'm up 7 units, so I'm going to finish in the positive, which is always nice. We like making money on the back end, and my goal is ideally go 4 for 4 and end up 10 or 11 units up at the end of the year. That'd be fun. But for my bets, I have Akshay Bhatia over Robert McIntyre. Robert McIntyre WD'd at the BMW due to a back injury. Some people are saying it's not serious. Other people are saying that he's kind of like concealing it. Because like Hideki's was not serious. But people were like, Robert McIntyre's might actually be like a bit of a thing. Like he might just have like tweaked something wrong. You don't just heal that in a week. So I like those odds at minus 110. I have Tommy Fleetwood over Russell Henley at plus 100. I know you like Russell Henley, but I think Tommy Fleetwood has really good potential to move up that leaderboard and probably finish top 8 at the end of the week.
It's all about how Tommy plays because Russell's going to be consistent. Just Tommy has to make birdies.
Yeah, exactly. I have Shane Lowry over Sahith Theegala at minus 105. This is less of a Shane Lowry like and more of a Sahith Theegala dislike. Sahith Theegala has lost a combined 13 strokes on approach in his last 4 starts. Which generally doesn't do very good for you at Eastlake. Now, does Theegala have the ability to turn it around here? I'm sure. But I'm going to take the minus 13 strokes on approach and just take a chance that at minus 105, that's a pretty good number to go after. My last one's going to be Sungjae Im, top 10 at plus 115. Again, we'd like him a lot. He always contends at the Masters. And I think that of somebody who starts off, I think in like T13, he makes a lot of sense for a guy that can jump into the top 10. Cool. Did I misspell it?
Yeah.
There you go. Are we going winners or wildcard picks?
Let's go wildcard picks.
Okay.
Mine is Ludwig Aubert top 5 at plus 240. Every single book had him at like plus 170, plus 160, and then I went on Bet ESPN. It was like plus 240. I'm like, F it, that guy's in 4th place. Let's go.
I thought you would have done a JT top 10.
I almost took a Burnsy top 5, to be honest.
Ooh, okay.
Which probably glad I didn't. But now that I said that, he's going to win.
I'll say this. If I didn't pick my wildcard pick, I liked the idea of going to JT at top 10. I forget what his odds were, but like they were
30 seconds.
I was going to say they were probably like plus 300. So my wildcard pick is Sepp Straka top 10 at plus 400. Again, this is a guy who plays well and has a lot of the metrics to do well at Eastlake. So I'm a fan of him this week.
Plus 400.
Is he also plus 400? Okay, that would make sense. So.
Top 20 is minus 150.
Just saying. I'm just saying.
Got to think about that one.
Yeah, that one will be interesting. So I'm going to pass. I'm going to stick with my 4, but good to know. Jack, who are your winners this week?
I think Xander Schauffele is going to do it. I think this is going to solidify him for player of the year if he can get this. And Scotty just manages to suck because, yes, Scotty has won like 3.5 times as many times as Xander has this year. But if you're looking at the biggest of events and everybody's chasing Scotty, but Scotty's looked human. And Xander's got 2 majors, and if he can capture a FedEx Cup title, I think that would cement him, in my opinion, for player of the year. And I also have Patrick Cantlay because Lord knows you can never count him out at Eastlake. Maybe if Vijay Singh was here, I could contend him up there. If you know, you know.
That's funny. For my winners picks, I have 2 very popular names, and I would just like to reiterate that I have not used either of these golfers all year. I was very specific on the fact that I was going to hold off on these guys, save them for a tournament at the end of the year. So I did. I have Scotty Scheffler and Xander Schauffele, the guy who starts 1 and 2. So I feel very confident on those guys. Again, I know you're going to be like, you took the top 2 guys. I took the top 2 guys because I haven't used them all year because I was specifically saving them for East Lake. So that's my intention for it. So, all right, Jack. With that, last event of the year.
Can you believe it's been 6 years since Tiger won here?
Jesus. That's so depressing. Yes, it's Jack. It has in fact been 6 years. Yeah. So, how many days since you won the Masters? I'm just kidding.
I can calculate that.
Oh my God. No, stop. All right. I'm gonna save everybody else the headache before he says it. With that,
hold on, I'm doing math right now.
Be safe. Again, this is East Lake. The odds are a little hit or miss depending on where you're at. There's only 30 golfers.
3 years, 4 months, 10 days ago, 1,228 days. It was my birthday. I can calculate that.
Yeah, that's true. So, all right. With that, we'll leave you to it. Safe betting. We will see you in the next calendar season, aka 2 weeks. Outside of that, have fun.
I'm interrupting you. It was 5 years, 4 months, 7 days ago, which is 1,956 days.
I was gonna say 1,000 days seemed off, but I wasn't gonna question because 1,000 was probably his last tournament. No.
He just played a couple months ago.
No, his last tournament win. I was trying to think of.
At the Zozo?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm probably just mixing shit up. That's okay. All right, we're gonna leave you guys to it. Jack's gonna get me down a hole of Tiger otherwise. So we'll see you in 2 weeks. Deuces.